turning a 2D classic into 3D perfection. What the f I get myself into? I'm gonna spend the next few weeks remaking the first level of the first ever Kirby game to ever get released, 1992's Kirby's Dreamland, in 3D. Now, I know what you're thinking. Oh, there's already so many 3D Kirby games out there. Yeah, well, something about seeing 8-bit characters as voxel art just hits a little bit different. And also I need subscribers, a lot of them. So please subscribe. Otherwise, let's remake the first ever Kirby in 3D. The first challenge will be to create a fully functional Kirby, and I'm not going to use this Casper the Ghost look. I'm going to recreate these sprites in the standard pink Kirby colour. To do this, we were going to use our best friend Magica Voxel. Then I repeated this for the rest of the Kirby sprites. I put my standard character control script on Kirby, and well, he was looking kinda still. The fundamental idea is to create an animated script with a 2D array of Kirby models, which in code talks is like a table with rows and columns where each Kirby model is stored at a specific position. For example, if Kirby was in the running state, it would cycle through the running animation array by activating and deactivating its given game objects. So now, when Kirby performs a specific action, it will activate the right models and deactivate the other ones. Now, this place is looking a little bare, so next I wanted to add the start area of the first level as a little play area to see what the environment would look like. I played around with different colours for the grass to test and how to go at building the first part. And this is how it turned out. This however gave me Kirby's first problem. It now needs to fly and inhale enemies. To recreate the flying, Kirby in the original game usually sucks in a bunch of air and uses it to propel itself in the air like a balloon. It will stay in this state until a button is pressed to trigger Kirby deflating. When Kirby deflates, a cloud of air is released as a projectile that can hurt enemies. So I did just that. I also added in a black outline to make Kirby pop a little. The inhaling was not so different either. Kirby just sucks in a bunch of air, and this vortex drags enemies along with it. In modern Kirby games, he may gain an enemy's ability, but that was introduced after this game, so haha, less work. Instead, in this game, Kirby shoots out the usual projectile stuff. Now, the lazy me told me that this was okay, but this is CAS games, so I'm trying to prove to myself and you guys that I'm not lazy, and that I want to improve feel. So I added a particle system that converges at a point, sort of like a vacuum. Let's just pause the video right here. I just want to let you know that creating a particle system that extrudes from a point is easy, but to make it look like it's converging to a point, it was ridiculously difficult. I had to play around with the system for way too long to get something that looked passable. If anyone has any tips in the comments to make it easier, please let me know. And play. Next was the star. And to make this look even cooler, I rotated it and added a glow to the star by increasing the emission of the material. So now it was time to bring this level to life. To recreate the rest of the level, I used the same image of the first level as a reference and recreated the environment in a 3D space. So it went from 2D to 3D. I wasn't going to get too detailed into making a circular skybox, so I made a 6-sided cube skybox and rotated it at a constant speed. And you know what? It was looking pretty damn good. Until I thought it didn't. The world felt a little bit too big, so instead of a skybox, I made a sphere with a double-sided shader instead, to improve the immersion of Kirby, to really feel like it was in its own level, and it looked much better. It was at this point when I decided that I wanted to keep the aesthetic of the Game Boy to the 3D world. I wanted to try and keep that 8-bit grey look into a coloured 3D space. So, I added in a parallax background, which is sort of like layering the environment in the original game. I made 2 levels, one for the grass and one for the background hills. I then added in a water shader as the void, the same one from my Impossible game in 3D make, so if you haven't watched that, link is in the description. I also added the buildings from the level and moving flowers, but instead of having 2 different models switching constantly, just like Kirby, I realised I could just flip my current models 180 degrees every 0.5 seconds, and it did the trick. FYI, this level is split into 2 islands, so for the second island, which is sort of like a forest, wait for it. Oh, alright, let's redo this. So, for the forest part of the level, I also added in these trees. With that done, it was time to move on to enemies. The first enemy was Waddle Dee, and yes, the names don't get any better. This one was simple enough. In the original game, it just follows a simple back and forth path. However, because we're working in 3D now, I wanted it to wander around aimlessly by picking a new direction to walk every few seconds, until Kirby enters its radius and it starts to pick up speed and follow Kirby around. There's a reason why I left this all the way till now in development. In the first level alone, there are not 1, not 2, but 8 enemies, and I was determined to get them all done. Apart from this one, for time's sake, I just cut it out of the build because it didn't really add much. Anyways, to ensure that the enemy didn't fall off the map accidentally, I made a raycast facing downwards, and if it couldn't detect the ground below it, it would choose another random direction where it could detect it. And that's it, sort of. Right now enemies can't hurt me, and I can't hurt them. So with a little magic, and a lot of game tag programming, I made a UI that paid homage to the original game to keep track of Kirby's health, and whenever it got hit, it was knocked back, to again improve that game feel. Next was Brompbert. And Twizzy. Man, who comes up with these names? I made the rest of the models in Magic of Voxel, and got to work on implementation. And yes, this took a long time. These two flew around a certain radius until Kirby enters their range. Twizzy simply follows Kirby, and Brompbert dashes at Kirby every 3 seconds. The next two were Grizzo and Poppy Bros Jr. Grizzo just has the same ability as Waddle Dee, as well as Poppy Bros Jr. But they can combine forces where Poppy Bros Jr. rides Grizzo. Also, Poppy Bros Jr. has an older sibling, Poppy Bros Sr., which is exactly 1.5 times its size. This is the first level's mini-boss. It has the ability to shoot bombs at Kirby and cannot be sucked. So instead, Kirby sucks in his bombs and shoots them back at the mini-boss before it dies after 2 lives. I put all the enemies in the right spot and done. The last thing to do was the final boss battle with Wispy Woods. In the original game, it goes through a set of moves where it shoots clouds of air from its mouth and then shakes apples onto Kirby. Now, to recreate this, I made an entirely new area with the same skybox and put the original background to either side of Kirby, sort of like a wall. The boss itself had the exact same mechanics. It would shoot 5 clouds at Kirby's direction, and then it would shake 1 apple where Kirby is located. Also, it does have a nice little particle system now. Kirby can either defeat the tree by sucking up the apple and using it as a projectile, or it can simply shoot its cloud projectile back. Each time the tree is hit, it makes a face, until it starts crying once it's defeated. Oh, and it also has 5 lives. And that's it. I really needed to get this video out ASAP, so with that, I went for a final push and added in the finishing touches to get a playable demo. So here's a rapid hit of what was left. I made a quick game over screen when Kirby dies. All the sounds and music were implemented. Extra areas were also completed, which includes the inside of the building and inside of the tree. The inside of the tree just has some Grizzos walking back and forth. And of course, the Maxim Tomato and bottles of health were also put in the game. And with that, I've officially completed the remake of Kirby's Dreamland in 3D. So here's a final playthrough. Also, yes, I could have just flown over everything, so don't even ask that in the comments. Thanks.